I'm Emily Hart, and these are your top news stories for the week of May 24th, 2021. Colombia's protests are now in their fourth week, with more street demonstrations and ongoing roadblocks, including national mass mobilizations last Wednesday, the 19th of May. Thousands took to the streets in anti-government protest, yet again facing a violent state response. The protests, known as the Paro, started on the 28th of April, sparked by an unpopular tax reform bill which has now been sunk. The protests have been further fuelled by police violence, which was again focused in the city of Cali this week, with policemen, ununiformed, reportedly shooting live rounds at protesters. There have so far been counted 2,905 cases of police brutality during the Paro, with more than 50 killed by security agents. There have been 1,264 arbitrary arrests, 21 victims of sexual assault, and nearly 400 people still missing. Protesters are calling for government action, an end to police violence, and reform of the security forces, as well as accountability for Diego Molano, the Minister of Defence, who has been in charge of much of the securitized state response to the protests. Last week, the Paro achieved another of their major demands, the fall of a proposed health reform, which quickly lost its support in Congress and was left without sufficient votes. Groups are also calling for the President to allow the Inter-American Human Rights Commission to enter the country for an investigation. A motion against Molano has been launched in Congress, demanding his removal from office. Amnesty International has made an urgent call for an immediate stop to the US practice of supplying arms, vehicles, ammunition and technologies which are being used against the Paro protests. They are related to human rights violations in Colombia. The group has verified the use of high-capacity grenade launchers and hand grenade launchers, both manufactured by US company Combined Systems. They call the US role in human rights violations in Colombia outrageous and have discovered new contracts for the USA to continue supplying arms to the Colombian police. Pope Francis has spoken out on Colombia's situation and has pled for a serious dialogue to find a way out of the crisis. President Duque's negotiations with various groups are ongoing, though the High Commissioner for Peace, Miguel Ceballos, has now resigned from government, though he was leading the negotiations with the Paro Committee. Meanwhile, the government has been preparing a new tax reform bill, which is soon to be presented. It is reportedly a reform that in essence temporarily suspends the tax benefits it had approved for companies in the 2019 tax law and adds new taxes to the richest. Colombian left-wing rebel leader known as Jesus Santrich has been killed in Venezuela. Santrich was a key figure in peace negotiations but later joined a dissident group and continued fighting. Dissidents said he had been killed by Colombian armed forces, while Colombian Defense Minister suggested that he had died in a shootout between gangs. One of the most important global ratings agencies, Standard & Poor, has downgraded Colombia's long-term sovereign debt rating to junk. For the country to lose its investment grade, 2 of the 3 major ratings agencies would have to lower the country's rating, but the loss of the investment grade would mean that the government would find it more expensive to borrow internationally. Colombia will no longer be hosting the Copa America, which is scheduled to kick off in 3 weeks. Argentina, which was originally going to co-host the football tournament, will take over the complete organisation. This is a blow to Duque's government, which has done everything possible to keep the organisation of the Cup, including requesting its delay, a request which was denied this week. And the third wave of coronavirus continues, with new daily cases at around 16,000. This figure has held since mid-April. ICUs are at over 90% capacity in various major cities, including Bogotá, Medellín, Cali, Cartagena, Bucaramanga and Valledupar. Colombia has now suffered 85,000 deaths in a population of 50 million, though 10% of the population has now received at least 1 dose of vaccine. Those were your top stories for this week. Now back to Colombia Calling with Richard McCall.